we want to print out a set of blanks because when we actually have the final game, we're not going to show the user the solution. Instead, we're going to show them this is how many letters you need to guess. And we're showing it to them in these blanks, which are basically created with these underscore symbols. Now, the next step is the user will go ahead and guess a letter. And what we want to do in to-do number 2 is to create a variable called display that is going to put the guessed letter into the right position. So you can see in aardvark, we've got 2 A's at the beginning and then an A at this position as well. So we're creating a string where the user guessed letter is put into the right positions of the word, but the unguessed letters are represented by underscores, which will represent a blank for the user to continue guessing. So as we're on step 2, it's getting harder, but hopefully you'll be able to figure out how to do this by looking at the to-dos, the hints, and also using your knowledge of Python. So I'm going to let you pause the video now and try to tackle this challenge. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is to do number 1, and we're going to write our code right here underneath it. We're going to create an empty string called placeholder, so that's quite easy. And we're going to set it to equal an empty string with the double quotes with nothing in between them. Next, we need to create a for loop so that for each letter in the chosen word, we're going to add a underscore symbol to this placeholder. So for example, if the chosen word was apple, then the placeholder will just be 5 underscores. So how can we do that? Well, we learned about the for in range function before. So we could, for example, say for, and at this point you can name this variable whatever you like, but I'm going to call it position. For each of the positions in the range. Now, what is the range that we want? Well, if the word was apple, then we would want that range to be the number 6 because we want this loop to run 5 times. And we know that range goes from the starting point to the end point. So if we wanted to write 1, 6, then go ahead and print this loop has run. And I go ahead and run this current file, you'll see it prints us out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, which means that instead of printing this loop has run, I could assign the placeholder a new value. So the plus equals will add a new letter to that string, and I could add the underscore so that each time the loop runs, we add a underscore to this string placeholder. So let's go ahead and print placeholder and let's rerun this current file. And you can see here we've got our string placeholder being printed out, and it's composed of 5 underscores because our range ran 5 times between 1 up to but not including 6. So if we want the range to instead run to the number of characters in our chosen word, then all we need to do is to create a word length variable, and we can set it to equal the length of the chosen word. And now if we put that in here as the range and go ahead and rerun this, then you can see that we're getting the same number of times that loop runs as the number of characters in the word. So now we're basically creating this placeholder so that the user can look at this instead of the actual answer and try to guess the letter. Now, if this was at all confusing, do go back and revise the lesson where we learned about the range function in the context of for loops in Python. It hopefully will make a bit more sense, and then you can come back here and fix your code. Now, the next to do is to create a variable called display that puts the guessed letter into to the right positions and a blank in the rest of the string. So for example, in the description here, you can see that if the word was apple and the user guessed P, then this display should put the P letters in the right positions, and then the rest of the positions have a blank. So we're going to reuse, or rather extend, this for loop that we created previously. So we know that we can loop through each of the letters in the chosen word, and if the letter matches the guessed letter, then we'll print right, otherwise we'll print wrong. But instead of printing right and wrong, what we want to do instead is to create a new variable called display and set this to equal an empty string. Now, if in our loop we check the current letter and it's equal to what the user guessed in their input, then we're going to take this display and we're going to use the plus equals to add the current letter that we're looping through to this display. And if the letter is not a match, then we're going to take the display and we're going to give it an underscore instead. So now if I go ahead and finally print out the final value of display at the end of the running of this loop, then we can see it in action. So the current word that's being chosen is aardvark. This is the placeholder being printed out with the number of letters in that word. And then we're asked to guess a letter. So I'm going to guess A. And then you can see that for each time this loop runs, we'll loop through the first letter in the chosen word, A. Is it equal to the guess letter? Well, it is. Well, in that case, we're going to add that letter to the display, and that's how we have this first A. Now, when we loop to this R, so this letter is equal to R, is the letter equal to guess? No, so it's going to trigger the else. And in this case, it just adds an underscore to that string display instead. And by the end of this entire process, we end up with the display showing the letters which were correctly guessed and blanks for the letters which were not. So that's all there is to it, to the two to-dos in step 2. We're now creating the basis of our game that we're going to build on in future steps. So hopefully that made sense. If it didn't, as always, go and fix your code and make sure you understand what's going on before you proceed. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next lesson.
Thanks for watching the video till the end. Please leave your thoughts below so we can discuss more about the topic. If you'd like to suggest a video that could help the community, feel free to message me on X or Instagram. We also share short videos on Instagram, so make sure to follow us there. Feel free to reach out. We'd love to hear from you, and might even create a video based on your suggestion. Thanks again for being part of our community. See you in the next video.